This is the Outer Worlds. I don't think that I streamed this game when it was brand new. I don't know. I could be misremembering. Maybe I did at the very beginning. But this game was actually requested by viewer Orathaus, who's played this game like 3 times all the way through and wanted to get my take on it. So I played it when it first came out, and I didn't get very far, which kind of surprised me, actually, because I'm a big fan of Obsidian. I'm a big fan of their work. I love the writing of this game, and sort of the kind of clever, ironic take on a corporation-dominated future out in space. I really like that kind of vibe. And I kind of liked sort of the ironic, like, propagandistic angle that they gave to the aesthetic. So a lot of this is the kind of stuff that I would normally really love. But I did end up bouncing on it, I think, for a couple of reasons. And so as we sort of play through it a little bit, I want to talk about those reasons and sort of explain what it kind of taught me about game design. But one thing I want to say up front is, if I talk about the reasons why I didn't resonate with the Outer Worlds and why I didn't keep playing it, that is not me casting shade on the game itself. The game objectively has got an audience that loves it, and that means that it is a good game. If any game that finds an audience is a good game, at least for the people who are playing it. And so even though I bounced off it, I bounced off of a lot of games that I have a lot of respect for and that I think are really good. And so but my analysis of this game, in understanding my own desire to stop playing it, it's stuff that was useful for me to work through as a game developer because it made me understand my own craft better. But this is not me, trying to criticize the game itself and say, like, oh, I'm not trying to decide if the Outer World rules or sucks. That is not the angle of my channel. That's not what I do here. So just wanted to make that clear up front because I might end up criticizing the game a little bit, or at least, raising things that can go wrong with a game like this. But that doesn't mean that I think that the game is bad. So, okay, so I could continue my old game, but I have literally forgotten everything that was going on, because it was years ago that I actually played it. So let's start a new game from scratch, which should give us the vibe of what the game is like.
Why stay earthbound when prosperity awaits you in the stars? Come to Halcyon, the only colony on the edge of the frontier, owned and operated by corporations. A trip of 10 short years will feel like mere minutes, thanks to the comfort and safety of your very own hibernation chamber. You'll wake up in a perfect society designed to maximize your productivity with guaranteed full employment. With only a minor term of service, you will become the master of your own destiny when you go out of this world to the Halcyon colony.
That's the pitch that actually got a lot of Europeans to move to the United States. To the territory that eventually became the United States, I should say. I like that. Deliberate contrast between the promise of this perfect world and how well this guy's technology works. You immediately see the lie underscoring this propaganda. So this is Phineas, I guess. I've forgotten who the characters are.
Hundreds of thousands of colonists left adrift out here forever, just to keep from damaging the board's bottom line. Disgraceful.
That's a nightmare. Going out and like a colony ship, and then like the corporation that sent you out there just like delays indefinitely your arrival just because it's in their interest to do so. Okay, so they've gone for
You memorized how many digits of pi?
some pretty chunky stats. In a lot of RPGs, the stats have a lot of granularity to them as you're raising and lowering them. But they're actually stating it. They're not even stating it in numbers. They're stating it in like in words because it's that chunky. By chunky, I mean the increments are small, and so the steps between them are very large. So I guess let's go with because this is an Obsidian game, it feels like charm might be a valuable thing to grab because they tend to do a lot of like interesting, dialogue branching and stuff like that. And it feels like charm, intelligence, perception would be good. Strength and dexterity. I mean, you want to be good at something, right? Something physical. Maybe we'll just do something like that. I could also just lower my strength if I want to.
Muscular atrophy is practically a hobby in this colony.
But that reduces my carrying capacity, which no thank you. Yeah, let's just go with this. And then my skills. Let's go ranged.
We'll put those marksmanship scores to good use.
And let's go with dialogue since we chose all that charming stuff.
You could make a vicar doubt the law.
Then aptitudes. So we get a bunch of bonuses. And then determination if I want none. That's kind of fun. Dirt farmer, janitor, medical technician. Safety inspector takes less plasma damage. What? I've built up an immunity to plasma. Science assistant. Tossball team mascot. I'm sorry, I don't care what it does.
See you cry inside of a mascot suit.
That's what I'm doing. All right, let's. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I could spend a lot of time on this, and that's not what you're here for. I do love the sheer variety of hair colors. I am not thrilled at the dramatic lighting that makes it difficult for me to see the hair colors. You really want at least the option to have very flat, even lighting so you can tell what you're actually doing. Because, this looks like this hair is a mix of gold and green with a lot of luster, but I could be wrong. That could be a detail of the light. I can't be sure. Oh, let's definitely have a cool scar, though. And next. My name. My name is going to be Ori, because this game was recommended by Orthouse. And here's a summary of all my stuff. Seems good. So we're just going to go next. Start the game with this character. Yes.
Looks to be your lucky day, my friend.
So, by the way, Orthouse also asked an kind of unrelated question about State of Decay 2, and now that I've seen it,
Not likely, bootlickers.
I'm going to save it for the end.
Initiate skip jump.
Okay, so now we're at his orbiting lab. Ship is damaged.
Structural integrity down 25%. Power levels down. If drive
Shit. Ah, there you are. Wondering what's going on, eh? Bit of bad news there, I'm afraid. Your colony ship was inexplicably knocked out of skip space and forced to complete its journey at sublight speeds. This means that you and every other colonist on the Hope have been in suspended animation for 70 years, give or take. Normally, reviving someone after so long leads to some quite horrifying results. It's called explosive cell death, but it's really more of a liquefaction. Something wrong? Oh, yes, well, not to worry. I've pumped your body full of a special concoction I devised to keep you from dying so horrifically. Hopefully at all, but I guess we'll see, yes? Unfortunately, I used the last of my chemical supplies saving you. I know it's a lot to ask, but I must have your help securing more if we're to save the rest of your fellow colonists. I'd see it done myself, of course, but the board has a sizable bounty on my head. Now, my ship is inoperative, but I've managed to hire a smuggler to help you out. He'll be... Oh, I see we're in position. Good luck.
That callback was great. That moment was twice as funny because they had the previous moment. So, one thing I will always say about Obsidian is they are very, very good at writing. And
Can you hear me? Is this thing working? Ah, there you are. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, the smuggler. His name is Hawthorne, and he should be waiting for you at the landing site. He's to be your chauffeur, so to speak. Not to worry, I'm told he's a specialist. Dashing gunslinger, one-of-a-kind ship, that sort of thing. You'll like him, I'm sure. I've also outfitted you with a simple wireless monitor, so I can track your progress. I'll check in with you as soon as you land. Good luck. All the colonists are counting on you.
I think we're meant to not fully trust this guy. Like, maybe he's not here to rescue all the colonists. Not sure. That's the vibe I get. But yeah, Obsidian really knows what they're doing when it comes to storytelling, writing, humor. Like, there aren't a lot of developers who, as a team,
You
are
landed good.
consistently good at it.
Hawthorne should be close by. What in law's name? Is that him? Oh, that idiot. I told him to plant the beacon and move away, not stand there holding it. Oh well, no sense in letting his ship go to waste. Hawthorne won't mind you taking his ship. Better you than the board, huh?
Okay.
Not sure I trusted the fellow. Might have gone after the bounty on my head. Shame about the whole squashing thing. Nasty way to go.
I'm just wandering around to let the dialogue play out. So, check out the way they've set up this part of the level. Like, you can just see, like, when they first gray boxed this map, they deliberately built everything so that you would see these landmarks on the horizon. And you'd be like, ooh, wow, I'm entering a space where I bet I can go there, I bet I can go there. And the game really gives you the impression of being like a Bethesda game, and you've, I believe the last game of this type that Obsidian had made, unless, I might be forgetting the order in which some games came out, but they're very well known for Fallout New Vegas. And so I think that, this game is, I think, deliberately giving you a little bit of a Fallout New Vegas vibe. And actually, I think that might be one of the reasons why I struggled with it initially, is because I came to it enjoying the idea of getting another Fallout New Vegas. Because this game definitely has the feel of, a Bethesda-style open-world game. But, and I don't think we're actually in a position to see much of the map yet, the maps are actually not all that big. There are individual maps on different planets, but each map is not actually all that large, to the point where it doesn't actually have sort of that big, broad, open world gameplay that you kind of expect from Bethesda-style games. Instead, it is a much more narrow-focused game, more along the lines of something like Mass Effect, where you're just going to very specific places that are designed to offer very specific experiences, and there's branching and there's different orders that you can take things in, but ultimately the map isn't like a huge, massive element of the game in itself. The map is there to serve the story. The map is present to provide a setting for the storytelling that's going on, rather than being like just one of the massive pillars of the game itself. Like, you're just, when I'm playing a Bethesda game, I'm just there to play the map. The story is incidental for me. Like, I'm like, oh, sure, yeah, I know there's a story. I'll do it eventually. I kind of want to understand the context of this place. But really, I'm just here to see what's around each corner. And this game has a lot fewer corners. And which is actually, one thing that's admirable about this game is the fact that they were able to create that vibe with so little. And actually, one thing that I assume is, so I'm not very good with like numbers. I don't know how much games cost to make. I don't know, like I couldn't look at a game and estimate how many years and how many people it should have taken to make it and how expensive that should have been. But if you were to take someone who is very good at that, who is good at translating those ideas into numbers, if they looked at the Outer Worlds and made a guess about how much money and time was spent on it, I bet you that it was actually half of that. I'm betting that whatever you think it took to make this game, they probably made it with less. And I think that's one of the things that really impressed me about it, was that it did, from the very outset, create the vibe of a Bethesda scale game for me without actually having to be one in order to do that, which that's very, very difficult. And so they did an excellent job of that. But one thing that did for me, though, was it did create this sense of, I went into it imagining I was going to have a certain experience, and I started playing it like that was going to be my experience, but then I found out it was a different kind of game. A different kind of game that I do enjoy. I loved the Mass Effect games. I played, the Dragon Age games. I really, really like that style of game. But so that isn't actually a knock against the game, but it did end up putting it in this slightly uncanny valley for me, where it's it looked like one thing, but was actually another thing. And because it was doing that, it messed with my motivations as a player, and I struggled more to get into it because I kept looking for things that weren't there and maybe underappreciating the things that were there. Gross, by the way. Okay, so I can sneak. Why am I sneaking? It's telling me to sneak. Oh, here we go. Oh, look. And look how slick this game is. You look at, one of the advantages of making a game that is smaller scale than a Bethesda-style game is the fact that you can make the environments that you do build much slicker. The way that that it looks so good when the grass turns translucent, so that you can see through it. So you can sneak through it without, having your vision completely obscured. And you can watch for enemies and things like that. That makes this grass more expensive. And if you were filling a massive world with this grass, that would be more difficult and expensive. But because this is a segmented off, tunnel-shaped route through a world, you can do a lot more stuff like this. And that's just one example. I mean, yes, I'm sure there actually are very efficient ways to make things like this that could make them useful in a Bethesda scale game. But what I'm saying is, with a small team, with a small budget, you're always cutting corners. You're always having to cut corners. And so finding ways to do something, more cheaply, finding a way to limit the scope of your world so that within that world you can do more stuff, that's a massive win. And it feels like throughout the Outer Worlds, the team was finding efficiencies like that. They were basically, taking advantage of their experience. Wait, what is this? What's happening to me? What? What is that?
Easy now. You've been frozen for a while. There's bound to be unforeseen side effects.
Sure, man. Whatever you say, Phineas. But yeah, it feels like this team really used their experience and expertise as game developers. Oh, gosh. Okay. They used their expertise to make a lot more with less, to carefully choose what battles they were going to fight, and and what what things they were going to actually build, and basically we're trying to maximize the benefit they could get from each thing. What is the bare minimum amount of map that we can use to create that vibe of a large-scale space exploration? Is it this big? Is it exactly this big? That's exactly how big our maps are going to be. And they really took advantage of that to be able to do a lot with very little. By the way, I loved how clever that was. You'll notice I jumped at a ledge that was not a real ledge. And that was very intentional. If this had just been a hole with sheer walls, a lot of people would probably walk up to it. In fact, I'm betting they had this experience at some point in testing. People would walk up to it and go, well, I'm not jumping down that. And they would turn around and try to find another way to go, which is not what the developers want. They don't want you to spend a lot of time up there getting bored in a place where there's very little to do. They want you to get on with the game. They need you to get on with the game if they're going to keep your interest long enough to put you through the tutorial and get you hooked on the main storyline. And so they can't just have you stare at the wall, give up, and walk away. So they put a tiny ledge there that does not have collision, and you cannot land on it. Or whether the notch in the wall doesn't have collision. I think it's just flat collision covering the whole ledge, so that you will jump, to give you the faith that you can jump, and then you fall. And then you realize falling was part of the tutorial, and they wanted to teach you how health works. Hello.
Hey, you. Come here.
What?
You've tried the best now. Now try the rest. Spacer's choice. Oh, wow, that stinks.
Sit still. I'll patch you up.
Looks like the bleeding stopped. I owe you one. Hope you don't mind me omitting this little exchange from my report. Spacer's choice doesn't like us accepting outside help.
What happened to you?
We were out on patrol. I saw a Marauder camp up in the hills. Thought I could take him. Then my gun misfired. Right through my side. I mean, what are the odds of that, right? Just barely scraped by with my life. Crawled in here and blocked off the exit with those canisters.
What were you doing out here?
Investigating an illegally grounded ship. All spacecraft must arrive and depart from authorized landing pads. That's board law, that is. Some hull had grounded their spacecraft out in the open. That's a real good way to attract marauders. See those canisters by the entrance? Marauders come sniffing around in here, and I can take them all out with a single shot. Not bad, huh?
Yeah. So Lacolision points out, so this guy was bleeding all the time while I was out there monologuing? Yeah, pretty much. So I guess we can just imagine that his story began some amount of time before I arrived, and talked to him, and that time is flexible. Give me your gun and I'll go get some help.
Yeah, okay. You look like you know your way around a gun. Got some spare ammo, not counting the bullet in my side. Here, you can have my saber too, for patching me up and all. All Spacer's choice weapons are now 30% less likely to malfunction. You've tried the best, now try the rest. Spacer's choice. Yes, nailed it that time.
I love that slogan. They're basically just admitting they're the cheap generic option. All right, I'm off. Okay, I'm just pointing guns at people now. Anything in here? So one thing I haven't quite learned yet is what's interactive and what's not. There's a mag pick, Tartarus. Okay, so it looks like I get little green outlines around things that I can pick up. So folks are putting stuff in the chat, pointing out that this game apparently actually did very well. That it brought in enough money to pay for it, and they're working on an Outer Worlds 2.
Damn it, my ears! Oh, what just happened? Can you hear me? What in the hell?
I realize that was probably unnecessary. Tactical time dilation. Due to complications stemming from being revived after an extended hibernation, your brain processes time differently. So pressing that button, RB, gives you time to think and take action. So this is kind of like their replacement for whatever it was called, whatever you would do with the Pip-Boy in Fallout games. Marauder? Oh, good thing I can just tell that by looking at him. Oh, why am I bad? Oh, whoops. Okay. So I've got this weapon out. It says double click the jump button to dodge. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, I can dodge. So he gave me a saber too. Do I have to equip the saber? Oh, here we go. You can have up to 4 weapons equipped at a time. So let's figure out how to equip them all. These are the same. Okay, so 1, 2. So is it like on the D-pad or something? No, the D-pad doesn't do anything. Is it the Y button? Okay, the Y button. The Y button gives me access to a radial menu. Oops. And, oh, it's a mock apple. Nice. And one thing that's nice is... Oh, hacking and picking locks. Let's not read, and let's just try it out. Oh, okay, wait. I've got enough... Oops. Skill, but not enough picks. Let's grab a... I keep hitting the A button because I've been playing other games where the A button is the interact button. Okay, I'm going to pick this. And there's a telescoping staff in there. Well, let's mess with let's put that over there. So does that mean that I will cycle between them? Yes. I'm a little bit more of a shooter type though. Can I sneak up on this guy? Not if he walks away, I can't. Okay. His friend's walking away. Oh, gosh. Okay, that made noise, apparently. What? Okay. Cool. So you'll notice that my health regenerates. So I can use medical supplies in combat to quickly heal if I need to because my health is getting low and I'm still fighting. Where did that other dead body go? Where did I drop that person? Whatever. And actually, did that person have an outfit I could wear or something? Armor! Okay, so I've already got armor 3. This is armor 4. Put it on. Armor 4. There we go. Now I look like a Marauder. I'm sure that's going to go really, really well. I mean, I could identify that Marauder on sight and knew that it was okay to murder them. And now I'm dressed the same way. I would love some time for a game to actually make use of that. I don't think I've played one that does. Vats, by the way, when I talked about the time slowing effect and what I was comparing it to, it was the thing called Vats in Fallout. Thanks for the reminder.
Don't know where you came from, stranger, but you best keep your head down. There's marauders hereabouts, and worse, landing violators. Gall on that rung leech. Landing in the Vale without using an official Spacer's Choice landing pad. I'd slap him with a fine if it weren't for all these marauders shambling about.
Which I look like. I found one of your teammates.
Really? How is he?
He'll make it. I helped him.
Shouldn't have done that. Spacer's Choice family ain't authorized to receive
Oh,
medical
no.
aid from off-brand physicians.
I got him in trouble.
We'll see him back to Edgewater. Just as soon as I cross these marauders off with the swift, cost-efficient fury that's made Spacer's Choice the most trusted brand in personal defense. I just, you know, need a couple of winks to catch my breath. Stretch my legs some.
Let's see here. You back down from a challenge?
Well, sometimes. Management's real good at cost-benefit analysis. But, seeing as I'm the acting manager in this situation, you know what? You're right. It's time we cross those marauders off, find whoever owns that ship, and file a full report. Then it's gonna be fucking laminated.
Here we go.
Okay, so I might have had to fight something by myself, but I think because I did that persuasion, I get some help. So I think the main thing they're trying to do is establish very early on, in both of my early conversations, the material value of dialogue. Because it's very easy, you know, there's a lot of games that have dialogue systems where it doesn't actually help you that much. There's not a lot of purpose to it. By the way, I love that his leg has also got his inventory in it. And so they're trying to establish very early on, hey, invest in dialogue, invest in social skills. This is actually going to help you in meaningful ways. Because they make sure that both of the first two conversations you have those options very cheaply so that anybody can do them. And when you select them, you benefit from them directly. So, if I open this door, will I be admitting that this is mine? I mean, it's mine now.
Please be informed that this vessel contains no valuable plunder.
All right.
Hello, Marauder. I am Ada, the autonomous digital astrogator of this vessel. Please be informed that I am authorized to use violent retribution against unwanted solicitors. Please return any misappropriated equipment and exit this vessel in an orderly fashion. Failure to do so will result in your immediate destruction.
I'm not here to misappropriate anything.
I detect an elevated heart rate, indicating dishonesty. Please prepare yourself for lethal deterrence. Jettison procedures initiated. Disengage in airlocks. Prepare to eject all boarded parties in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're on the ground.
You are still here. My deception protocols have failed. I have been programmed to express disappointment.
Is this Hawthorne's ship?
This vessel is the registered property of Captain Alex Hawthorne. I am incapable of accepting orders from anyone other than Captain Alex Hawthorne.
Hawthorne's dead.
I understand. I will require some time to process this information. Thank you for your patience and for your honesty. I am programmed to take orders exclusively from Captain Hawthorne. If I accept your orders, then you must be Captain Hawthorne. Do you understand?
I like that she's subverting her own programming like this. Yeah, you need me to be Captain Hawthorne or you can't fly.
Well done, Captain Hawthorne. I see your powers of deductive reasoning remain intact. Unfortunately, our engine is currently inoperable. Our main drive suffered a critical power failure, and we were forced to make an emergency landing. The main drive's power regulator has been irreparably damaged and must be replaced.
By the way, I love that they took the reason why they want you to be called Captain Hawthorne all the time is so that you can be addressed by this character without them having to know the name that you entered during character creation. But they made it a joke instead of just saying your name has to be Commander Shepard no matter what. I like that. I think that's kind of I don't know, it works at sort of establishing the tone of the game and also solves a practical problem.
Astutely observed. However, the probability of locating a power regulator within a worker settlement falls within acceptable parameters of certainty. High-capacity power regulators are sometimes employed in the electrical networks of worker settlements. I have taken the liberty of printing you a new captain's identity cartridge. Please try not to lose it this time. This cartridge identifies you, Alex Hawthorne, as the registered proprietor and captain of the Unreliable. Do you understand?
Yes, I got it.
Best of luck in your search for a power regulator. Try to stay alive this time.
That's great. I love that conversation. So, yeah, you earn skill points and you level up. So let's do that. So I get 10 points available that I can spend. Can I spend them here? Let's see here. So, like, okay, yeah. So when you choose something to level up, like ranged weapons, an entire category levels up all at the same time. So let's just invest in the things we invested in already, just for simplicity's sake. Oh, wait. No. Apply. Yes. Okay. I'm not sure why are you telling me stuff? Stop it. Okay. Then selecting perks. Get a new perk point every 2 levels. So when I'm alone in my party, I do extra damage. That seems like that'll be me most of the time. Oh, wait. That much extra base health in one move? Wow. Vendor prices being down. That seems like maybe my style. Faster everything. Wow. They're going in these big, giant chunks. I'm actually used to games, especially games that are meant to be sort of like played over a long period of time, offering you piddly little improvements. But these are all very significant chunks that feel like you'd really feel the difference immediately. I'm going to go extra damage while alone. And apply it. And get out of here. Okay, so I've been playing for half an hour. I should probably talk a little bit about sort of like why I quit originally. Like why I didn't... And you can't really see it that well yet. but part of it did have to do with the journal. And basically what I found was, after I played this for a while, I opened up, multiple quests for different factions and different individuals, and I find side quests. Like each of these maps it's small compared to, say, a Bethesda style map, but it's also packed, and there's a lot of people who need help with different things, and there's a lot of like intertwining stories and stuff like that. And the thing that happened to me was, I sign on for every side quest I can hear about, right? Because when I'm playing a big open world game, which is how the attitude I was taking while I was getting into this game, I tackled it like it was a big open world game. And usually in a big open world game, a lot of the enjoyment I'm getting out of it is actually sort of the side content and the side systems. Things like the crafting system. I'm out collecting resources to try to make fancy guns or craft fancy armor or customize my starship, which is what I was focused on in Starfield, stuff like that. And the story is often incidental for me when I'm playing that style of game. And so I treat the story almost like it's a checklist. Like, there's benefits you get out of advancing the story. And so while I'm traveling around the world motivated by other things, I will keep an eye on the sort of checklist of missions that I have in my journal, and wherever I go, I'll just do all of the mission content in that area, just almost as part of my grind to get resources. And it's kind of a little bit of a thoughtless process. It's a little bit of a it's like, when you're playing a game just to sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? Abnegation. When you're playing a game out of a desire for abnegation. I think I learned that word from Brian Giammi. Then there's a certain way that you can play, like habitual ways that you can start to play that they're not particularly fun, but they make the game work, and they make the game feed you the steady, drip of whatever chemical your brain needs to get out of a game while you're sort of relaxing into the world and into the game. And so in a broad open world game like a Bethesda style game, or something like, say, No Man's Sky or something like that, where my goals are more almost economical, logistical, I'm focused on numbers going up and then getting to use them to creatively build something. If I'm treating a game like that, then missions just sort of fit into that checklist of like, oh, I need, 5 of this resource and 15 of that resource, and I need to finish these 3 missions. And they sort of fit into this larger goal. And so I found myself treating the missions in the Outer Worlds like that, and they provided me with a really well put together mission UI that would keep track of all of my missions, made it very easy to figure out where I was going, what I was doing, and let me sort of check them off. But because this is not actually a Bethesda-style broad open world game with a lot of other systems and things to engage with, this really is mostly an interesting, intricate, branching story told within sort of a world that looks large, but is actually just about the right size to contain the story, and doesn't have as many broad parallel goals. I found myself playing its missions like a checklist, even though the missions were like there wasn't another thing for them to add up to. The missions were the game. And so when the missions are the entire game, but you're playing them like a checklist in another type of game, you end up getting a lot less enjoyment out of the missions than you're supposed to if you were playing the game the way it was meant to be played. And so I guess what I found was that this game was an ill fit for the temperament I had when I went into it, because I went into it thinking I was going to have that sort of relaxing abnegation experience that you have with these broad open world games that are very logistics focused. And because this is not that kind of game, it's much more of a storytelling game about these characters and these situations and sort of going through these missions and making moral choices on these missions, and interesting moral choices. And they're all, in my experience, they were all very interesting, well-written, surprising. Everything good you want out of a mission was in these missions. And I have no complaints about the game at all. But because I went into it looking for a certain thing, I got into the habit of playing it like it was a different thing, treating the missions as checklist collectibles, and not treating them as something that I should get absorbed in as a story. And so I ended up not enjoying the story, not because the story was bad, but because I was coming at it from the wrong angle. But unfortunately, once I got into it that way, I had trouble extracting myself from it. And this is about my psychology. Once I get into that zone, I'm in that zone, and if the game isn't providing what I wanted from that zone, the game isn't working for me. So I ended up looking at it and very honestly going yeah, I'm playing these missions wrong. I'm not having fun. And so I should stop. And so I stopped playing the Outer Worlds at that point. So that's why at the very beginning I was like, my lack of enjoyment of this game isn't about the game making a mistake or the game being bad. It's about me.
Say, this wouldn't happen to be your ship, would it?
It's about me
You
not.
sure walked in it like it was your ship. And if this ship is yours, well, ma'am, you owe Spacer's Choice a hefty fine. Afraid we gotta dock your pay.
Anyway, what was my last sentence? I forgot. So I shouldn't have walked out until I was done talking. I just didn't realize she was going to immediately initiate dialogue with me the second I walked out the door. I thought that was going to be my choice. Anyway, it's much about sort of the vibe that I had going into the game, and and what how I was interfacing with it, and I think I was interfacing with it wrong. But it's interesting because, I have been able to enjoy lots of other games like that. I loved Mass Effect. I love Dragon Age, and I can definitely get into that kind of game. I just came at this one wrong. And unfortunately, more and more, like as I've gotten older and taken on more responsibility, both at work and with my ever-growing family, my ability to play deeply investing story games has also gone down over time. When I played the Mass Effect games, I had way fewer children, and I actually played through them. I did 3 separate playthroughs of the Mass Effect games. I did a Paragon playthrough, a Renegade playthrough, and an Idiot playthrough where I was trying to get every single character killed, and I almost succeeded. Freaking Morden would not die in that last mission in Mass Effect 2. Though I guess if you're going to do an Idiot playthrough, having your one surviving character be the one who was actively involved in a xenocide, I mean, that's probably okay, but but still, that was like, I was able to really, really get into games of this style and structure. But as my responsibilities have gone up over time, it's become more and more difficult for me to achieve the sort of deep investment in a very, very, very long story like games like this tend to have. It's like, because you just have to really be committed to it for a long time. And you have to be in the right mood. You have to be in the right mindset to sit down and actually say, okay, I'm going to get into a story now. And I'm very often not able to get into that mood. It's a game has to really, really grab me to make me sacrifice all of the other attention grabbing things in my head in order to focus on it. And so it was a combination of me initially engaging with the Outer Worlds wrong, and then when I realized what kind of game it was, not really being able to engage with that kind of game. And so I was like, either I have to change the way I play this game, and that felt intimidating given sort of the structure of my life, or I have to keep playing it but not enjoying it because I'm playing it wrong. And both of those were just not really viable options for me. Anyway, so she says, I owe a fine if this ship is mine. I can claim to be a safety inspector. I mean, I think I have the skill for this. Let's see how it goes.
Oh, by the law. I'm so sorry. I had no idea we had an inspector coming. If you'd like to speak with my manager, I report to Constable Reyes in Edgewater. Edgewater's not too far. Just follow the road east of here, over past the cemetery. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to inspect the crime scene before I make my report.
Take care. Okay, well that seemed pretty low consequence. I wonder if that's going to bite me later. I mean, when you look at a moment like that where I could either have taken on the need to pay a fine, killed her, or lied to her but leave a lie hanging in the air, that feels like 3 pretty major branches. And I'm kind of curious. I've forgotten how this story went. I'm kind of curious how much investment they actually put into this. Is whatever I chose with her going to matter later on? Or did they deliberately create a person that would not matter so that I can make a choice like that but not have to worry about it? By the way, you'll notice that I deliberately walked at a 90-degree angle to the destination that they told me. Hey, buddies. That's because I'm illustrating how I played this game initially. I played it like a Bethesda game, which is to say, I avoided getting involved at all in the main storyline, and I just started exploring. And there are things to explore in this world. There are places to go, but there's like one place in each direction, because that's just the scale of the world. And I gotta say, like, even just having a place to go in each direction That's more than you would typically find in a game like Mass Effect. So like, so even talking about how, you know, this is not, doesn't have the scale of a Bethesda game. Oh, I'm dead now. That's not throwing shade at it. Let's see what continue does. I was not trying to save at all. I'm wondering where it's going to send me. Oh. Wait, what? What? Where the crap am I? Hi?
Yeah, boss?
Boss, what? Wait. I hit continue. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's so weird. Okay, the stream of this is going to be over because I think I just figured out what happened. I never once manually saved that game that I just started. And so when I hit continue, it continued my last save, which was in my previous playthrough from years ago. That is fascinating. Wow. Because, you know, games like this, they often have a structure to their save system where you've got a character and then a bunch of saves under that character. And a lot of games like this, they'll do autosaves, especially at the beginning, so that no matter what, if you're playing as one character and you die or fail after reload, you go back and you return to some version of that character. The idea that they've got a save load system that somehow doesn't do that misses one of those pieces, so that when I hit continue, it reloads a previous playthrough. That is hilarious nonsense. That is, wow. The thing is, like, I'm betting that Test found this, and they're like, hey, this is weird, but I'm betting it just ended up, like, behind so many other issues, because it's like, yeah, for a person who never saves at the beginning, but has also already started another game, that's played a certain distance to another game, starts a new game, but forgot that you need to manually save this game periodically. That's the thing. If I had been playing this game recently, I would remember you have to manually save this game. This is not a game that saves itself. But the fact that I played a whole bunch, stayed away from it for years, came back and started a brand new game, and didn't know that I needed to save, that is such an odd edge case that I'm betting they're like, okay, yeah, what percentage of players is actually going to experience this? We don't have to fix it. That's really, really funny. It's so counterintuitive, but I can totally see how they got here. So yeah, Random Court says, so this would be an issue if you had not had another game, because it would have had to reset you at character creation, right? So yeah, so I would say the lack of an autosave anywhere along that process is a problem. Because, yeah, going all the way back to character creation, having no save, that is a big deal. That's probably the thing that I would bug and say, you should not do this. You should probably at least instruct me to save in the tutorial or something. I am so accustomed to autosaves in games. If a game requires me to manually save, they have to tell me in the tutorial that I need to manually be saving this game. As soon as there's any risk to my person, they've got to tell me. Because if they don't tell me, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to assume there were autosaves going on that I didn't notice. And if there are not, then and let me just double check this real quick. Let me make sure that it's not some other kind of problem. Wait, what? You're just syncing now? What? What are you doing? Yeah, all of my saves are with my previous character, Rhiannon. Okay, wow. But yeah, so you're absolutely right, Random Court. The lack of an autosave, or basically the fact that they neither have an autosave nor have an instruction in the tutorial telling me to save, like refusing to go on until I've saved, is a problem. I imagine a lot of players have gotten into this, where they assumed it was autosaving, got themselves into trouble by walking off the beaten path, got killed, and then like had to recreate their character from scratch. I'm actually surprised that that in the intervening years and expansions to this game, that they haven't solved that. That feels like a big culling factor, especially if the game's available on Game Pass, which it is. That feels like you'd be culling a lot of new players. People who try the game on Game Pass, get killed once, and never play again because they're so annoyed they have to go back to character creation. So that probably is an issue that someone should take seriously. But the specific detail, the confusion I'm feeling at showing up in the wrong save, that's something that, whatever. I think, as a general rule, I do think it's good for RPGs like this that have branching paths to recognize that a typical player, I should say, a typical hardcore player, is going to want the freedom to maintain and some ease around maintaining multiple different playthroughs, parallel playthroughs with different characters to try out different options. That's not the typical player. The typical player will play through once, or maybe will play through multiple times sequentially, won't be maintaining, parallel games. But there is definitely a common, well-known, hardcore play pattern, which is keep multiple parallel games and try out multiple things simultaneously. If your game doesn't divide up by characters, if your saves aren't divided up by characters, that makes it a huge headache to keep track of multiple characters. So I still would advise games in this genre to divide it by characters rather than just having a list of just a single list of saves. But again, you can tell this game was deliberately, I think, made by cutting corners, basically by focusing their fire, by saying, we're not going to do anything we don't have to do, so that the things we do, we can do really, really well. So we're not going to have a huge open world because we don't have the time or resources to do that really, really well. We'll have a small focused world, and then we're going to focus on making what's in that world amazing. And so I think that's what they did, and it really works. But it means that also sometimes user experience helps are also among the things that you will cut. So the game will end up being less friendly to a new user because you didn't do all of the things you could do to smooth out the experience for them. So, yeah. Anyway. That was actually kind of nice. It was well timed because we are coming up on an hour, and there isn't like a point in the story this early on that's like a satisfying time to quit. And so I'm actually kind of glad that the game imploded for me in a spectacular way because it gives me an ending point for the stream. So Orithau says that Cyberpunk 2077 has the same problem. All the saves are in one big stack, which makes zero sense instead of it being character assigned. I've only ever played one playthrough of Cyberpunk in time. In fact, when I came back to Cyberpunk, I deleted my old save because I was like, I don't remember anything that happened in this. I will never come back to it. I'm just going to start over from scratch. I didn't realize that they had that limitation too, because I know that BioWare has gotten very good at doing the split by character thing. Because I'm pretty sure that Dragon Age does it that way. Though maybe I'm misremembering. I don't know. Anyway, so I found that this game wasn't ideally suited for me and sort of what I needed out of a game. But I can totally recognize that the things that they decided to do with this game, they did very well. You could see all of it in the writing of that introduction. It was very clever. It was they were using the story right, having interface with your character's abilities in a satisfying way. These people know what they're doing. And actually, one thing I might want to do is I might recommend this game to my sister because my sister and I have different play patterns. Like I tend to play, like both of us played Starfield at the same time. And I was playing it very slowly as just this, almost like it was No Man's Sky. And I was just there to like level up my spaceship. That's how I was playing it. She was playing it by getting involved in the characters and their stories. And that's how she tends to play. She loved this type of RPG is her favorite kind of thing. And she gets into specifically the characters, the branching storylines, the choices you get to make for them and what they add up to, meaning wise, like that tends to be the level at which that she sort of the part of the game that she interfaces with the best, that entertains her. So I might actually recommend this to her because it was wrong for me in all of the ways that a game is right for her. And I also, Orathaus is here, sitting here in the chat. He loves this game. He's played it 3 times through. It's definitely recommendable to a lot of people who, just based on the kind of thing that you're into. So there you go. Those are my thoughts about the game. Another thing that this does bring up for me, actually, that I wanted to talk about is that, one of the reasons why I was so easily able to switch into sort of the checklist style of playing through the missions, which is what, the fact that I was approaching them that way is what was making them unsatisfying for me. The fact that I was engaging with them that way was actually helped along by how well put together the journal UI is. Like, they assembled a checklist for me that was very easy to use. And so I was able to slip into that pattern of play very easily, despite the fact that pattern of play was actually driving me away from the game. And so at first my reaction to it was like, that I thought that maybe they had made some kind of mistake, that maybe by making the UX so friendly in that regard, they made it easy for me to play it in a way that was actually unproductive for my enjoyment. And I still kind of debate about that in my head a little bit because, because we get a little bit of that kind of criticism on State of Decay 2. People talk about the minimap. They say because the minimap gives you so much information that's valuable to you, like showing you where zombies are, showing you where resources are, showing you where... You end up looking at the minimap a lot while you're playing, and for some players, they feel like that means that's actually detracting from their engagement with the world. And that games that lack a minimap and instead use something like a compass to help you navigate, so you still know what direction to go, but you don't feel like you're getting this sort of top-down view of the world. Some players really appreciate that because it forces them to focus their attention on the world rather than letting them focus on a minimap, which could be drawing their attention and distracting them. And so I think I regarded the journal UI in Outer Worlds in a really similar way. Like, they've given me this really useful UI for tracking my quests and treating them like a checklist, which makes it so easy for me to treat it like a checklist that I end up disengaging from the story. And so I think that to some degree, like, both perspectives, a perspective where the user experience is making the game harder for you to enjoy is partly true, and the idea that, of course, I as a player am deciding how I'm playing this game. It's up to me to, I've got to share in the process of generating my own enjoyment. If I am doing things like looking at the minimap too much or treating the journal like a checklist, if I'm doing things that are making my enjoyment worse, that's my fault, not necessarily the game's fault. I think that both are true simultaneously. I think that, the experience of a game comes together from, the developers doing something and you doing something together. And in some cases, you end up kind of clashing in a weird, unpredictable way where, your habits as a player are misaligned with the user experience of the game in a way that is no one's fault. I'm not doing something, I'm not playing wrong, and they didn't make the game wrong. We just kind of didn't align, and it didn't quite work.
I'm in no hurry myself.
Good. I'm glad you're in no hurry. Which actually kind of leads to solutions like the one that Cogs is constantly recommending to me in the chat, which is offering players options. So, like, for instance, if you had the option of whether or not to have a minimap, that could help you sort of customize the experience you want, turning off your minimap and then playing the game without it. In fact, we have that option specifically because there were a lot of people on the State of Decay team. I believe. Wait, do we have that option? We talked about. Now I'm scared that I'm saying we have the option. We don't have the option, because we definitely talked about the option of turning off the minimap. But now I'm worried that I'm saying we did and we didn't. No. I think we talked about making the minimap itself an option, but because we had wrapped so much HUD around it, that's right. We decided not to turn off the minimap. Instead, we give the option to turn off the entire HUD, which includes the minimap. And some players play it that way, but it's costly because you have to give up things like your health bar, which a lot of people do not want. And so yeah, no, I was wrong about it. Sorry. We did talk about it, but it was all so well integrated by the time we got around to it. It just ended up not actually being a thing. Oh, no, it did. No, Cole's going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm wrong twice. No, or I'm back. I was right originally and I was wrong to question my wrongness. He says, no, we can turn off the minimap. Okay, good. Okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, sorry. I was just like... I'm sitting here just not even knowing how my own games work, because I like playing with the minimap. I love the minimap in State of Decay 2. I would never turn it off. And so because I would never use that feature, it's like, this is true of so many things. I've got my one particular play style in State of Decay 2, and I definitely know that game inside and out for that exact play style. And all the things I don't use, my memory is so confused between the things that are actually there and the things that we planned or talked about putting in there, that some of which we did and some of which we didn't and some of which we did and then changed. Like, I am honestly, my brain is a mess when it comes to that stuff, much more so than yours is likely to be, because, you as a player, if any of you, assuming that many of you are players of State of Decay 2, for you as a player, you just see what's there and you learn each thing as you encounter it, and you're likely to have a fairly accurate idea of what's there because you've never seen the alternate versions. For me, my memory of that game is an absolute mess, because not only do I remember playing it, I also remember developing it. And I remember developing multiple iterations or discussing multiple iterations of every feature before actually building the feature. And so if it's a feature that I use all the time, I remember which one it is. But if it's a feature I don't use all the time, my memory is now a jumble of all the things we talked about, and I have no idea which one is real. So you just got to watch me go through like just a weird mental spiral trying to figure out what the hell was true about my game, because I just have no idea. I have no idea a lot of the time, and it's going to be the same way about the next game. Right now, we're in the process in State of Decay 3 of talking through a lot of options, and we keep going over, like, oh, we could do it this way, we could do it that way. That stuff is all very important for me. I have to hold all of those options in my head, and I do, during development, need to remember which one we chose so that I can instruct people. But sometime, 5 years from now, when hopefully we're playing this game, not giving you any real hints that way, when I try to remember what some of those features, how they actually came up, unless they're a feature I use all the
I
time,
shall await your signal, Captain.
I'm not going to remember which thing we chose. I'm just going to remember the conversations that we had. And then I'm just going to be useless at informing you all. Yeah, no, Coalition is joking. Release date confirmed. No, I deliberately chose a silly number of years that if it's not that, then something has gone horribly wrong. But also, whatever. That doesn't tell you anything at all about when it'll actually come out. Anyway, Cog says, document everything properly. Don't hold things in your head. Use the computer for it. Well, the problem with that is the more you document, the bigger your documentation gets and the harder it is to find things. And so, I don't know. There's not one easy way. And certainly I'm not going to have my documentation over here next to me anyway. So I don't think that's not as good a solution as it sounds on paper. So, yeah. Ranithcord, I think you're answering a question you're asking me a question that's a little bit too inside baseball for me to get into. Sorry about that. I don't think I could accurately answer your question without getting way too in the weeds about the project. Anyway, let's wrap up this episode because we're no longer talking about the Outer Worlds. You came here for an Outer Worlds thing. We're no longer doing that. So let's move on and do other stuff. There's a subscribe button. Here's links to other videos. And you can go click on those and get into more weird mental spirals with me.